Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time and time zone you are in and watching this. This is Catherine here from Thermography Clinic, New Brunswick, and I am absolutely thrilled today to have our guest join us. Please welcome Genevieve from the Lymph Initiatives here in Moncton, New Brunswick. And I can't tell you just how excited I am for this interview. So, Genevieve, it is a pleasure to have you here with us, and I am just thrilled to be able to introduce you to my followers and their friends and family, etc. So again, thank you for being here, and we're going to jump right into this. And as everybody knows, my viewers know, it's very casual conversation. And I'm just delighted to be able to connect with you and share with people what it is that you do and why it's so important what you do. So we're just going to pass the floor to you. You just get started. Maybe start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Lymph Initiatives.
My name is Genevieve Albert Mowini, and I am located in Moncton. And in 2015, so my background is, I was an esthetician at the time. And when I met my husband back then, his mother-in-law is a cancer survivor. And I wanted to give her aesthetic services, but I was very nervous. And I wanted to make sure everything was safe and I was doing it right. So I found the oncology aesthetics training from Oncology Training International. It is like the original training for estheticians on how to provide safe services for oncology patients, whether they're going through treatment or even after. There are some precautions that are important. And I looked at that training for about a year. And in 2016, I saw a post and there was a contest where you could apply to get the training for free, as long as you promoted the training after, right? Anyway, so I applied and I'm like, oh, I never win anything. But I was chosen.
The universe had different plans for you, my dear.
I know. And I just couldn't believe. I still talk about it and I get goosebumps. So I did that training. And of course, in that training, there was a whole module about lymphedema, which is, you know about it, mainly caused because they have to remove lymph nodes most times with cancer. And that causes major lymph congestion. So that can turn into lymphedema. And from there, I was like, the lymph system, even in aesthetics, we don't cover that. And started diving into it. And from there, I took the VODR lymph drainage, manual lymph drainage training. And there was no coming back from there. I remember I was sitting on the plane coming back from the training and I was like, I can't do aesthetics anymore. And in 2020, I decided to close my aesthetics business and focus on lymph 100%. So, yeah.
In 2020, God love you. Again, another person that, went through the whole COVID piece of opening up a new business. So God love you.
Well, in 2019, I started promoting lymph and all that, but it's hard when you have two different businesses. Mm-hmm. In 2020, I decided, if the world ends tomorrow, I want to do lymph.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit because, most people don't understand the lymphatic system, what it does, how it works, why it's so important. So can we dig into that a little bit?
Yeah. So a lot of people call the lymphatic system the sewage system of the body. And it is accurate because that's one of the functions it does. But I like to call it the taxi system for the body. And yes, it does collect waste. And, when I say waste, it's like the cells produce waste every day, constantly. Mm-hmm. And it has to be cleansed. And who does that is the lymphatic system. But another function that the lymphatic system does too is it brings proteins, fats, your immune system, and water to the tissues. So it's essential in regeneration. So when the lymph is not flowing properly, not only do you have more waste collecting, but you have less regeneration happening as well. Wow. So it's like the taxi system for major regeneration material, like proteins. We need that for regeneration. And also when it gets there with the regeneration material for renewal, it collects the waste. So yeah, it's like a taxi service, and then brings that waste to where it can get eliminated, whether it's the kidneys, the skin, the large intestine. So it decides where it goes. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm just going to add just a real quick piece too, because I only know like a small piece, right? Of course, my focus is always on, breast health. And when I learned that the lymphatic system, when it becomes overwhelmed with the toxins in our bodies, which I'm going to state in this time and frame, in our world today, we are subjected to a lot of toxins, especially with plastics and, things of that nature. So to those folks who say, yeah, but I look after myself really good, that's awesome. But it's in our air, it's in our water.
It's in our water, yeah.
There's a lot of toxins everywhere. And what I learned is that the lymphatic system, when it becomes congested like that, it will send those toxins to a woman's breast tissue.
Yes.
And I was flabbergasted. And, because again, a woman's breast tissue is on the outside of the body. So it's not a vital organ. You can live without it, and it's fatty tissue. And the day that I learned that, lymphatic system, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I still want to learn from you, Genevieve, is that the lymphatic system works, it'll go around the body, if you will. The taxi system will go around the body like once in 24 hours, because it requires muscle engagement. So if you're leading a very sedentary lifestyle, that muscle engagement's not, continuously making it flow or pump. So again, what do we do as women? We put our breast in underwire bras or tight sports bras, and there's not a lot of movement in our breast. So those toxins just keep accumulating. Is that correct?
Yes. So there's two things I want to cover here.
Please.
First is, yes, it's sent to the breast tissue, but the majority of it is sent to the skin. So you can imagine me sitting in class as an esthetician that works mainly with skin and being like, acne, rosacea, pigmentation, wrinkles, everything can be linked to lymph congestion. So that's one thing. But yes, it does send a lot to the breast tissue as well. So whatever can't be eliminated just ends up on the skin. It's either tension, swelling, or visual things that are happening. The other thing is there's 3 ways the lymph circulates. So yes, muscle activation. The other way is when the blood is pumping. So the lymph vessels, most of them follow big vessels like your arteries, your veins, all that. So when they're pumping, it also a little bit massages the lymph vessels. Okay. So when we're actually resting, it does flow a little bit, but that's not enough. And that's why when you get muscle activation, that's better. And that's why they say sedentary lifestyle is worse than secondhand smoking. That's why you have way more waste accumulated in your body from not moving than from smoking. So, and the third way that the lymph can circulate is deep breathing. Because we have a big vessel located right behind our lungs, right behind our diaphragm, actually, called a cisterna chyli.
Oh.
And that vessel drains up to 70% of our lower body. So when we deep breathe, the diaphragm goes up and down. Like I'm talking big belly breathing, like where the belly expands. The diaphragm massages that vessel. So it kind of like siphons in a lot of lymph. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. I did not realize that. I'm just sitting here because my listeners will laugh at me because they know my brain is like a monkey, like he just swings in for the banana.
Oh, me too.
But what's really interesting, right, is that, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza and his training, and I've been doing a lot of his deep breathing meditation, right? So the really deep breathing, and then you pull it up to the brain, et cetera. And it's incredible that when you do that, I can feel sluggish and, whatever, and sit my butt down and say, okay, you're not leaving here until you feel better, right? By doing some of the meditation and the deep breathing, and it works, but I didn't realize the connection to the lymphatic system.
Everything connects to the lymphatic, everything. And when you get dizzy, deep breathing, it's actually, toxins moving. And your body is actually working to cleanse that.
Okay.
But meditation helps also for the lymph, because when you're in fight or flight, the body doesn't drain really well. And meditation helps to bring the nervous system in rest and digest. And rest and digest also includes lymph flow. So Yeah.
Right. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so let's talk about, there's so many things that I'd like to talk to you about. So thank you for the, the little bit on that. And I hope that the listeners are understanding a little bit better, because the lymphatic system, that in my opinion,
Yeah.
based on what I've known, it is so critically important to take good care of your lymphatic system.
And it's so simple. That's the
Yeah.
hardest I have with people is I'm like, just do deep breathing every day, a little bit dry brushing, meditation. And human nature, we want it to be complicated, right? We want it to be hard and complicated. That's how we've survived for so long.
That's right.
But with the lymph, that's the hardest for people. It's so simple, you know?
So let me ask you this though. So if you have lymphatic congestion in the body, which it sounds like over 90% of us probably do, coming for a lymphatic drainage session or sessions is probably, in my mind, would be like your first line of defense, right? Make sure that it's flowing very well. And then as you get yourself better on that, then doing the meditation, deep breathing, moving.
Oh, yes.
Is kind of how you maintain it. So it's like the maintenance after. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's a good question, because I always say, unless you drink water from a source that's been untouched, and you sleep on the ground every night for grounding, and you pick berries from the bush and that's what you eat, you're going to need lymph drainage.
Very good. I love that. Okay.
So I usually recommend monthly, and there's always a little something to work on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's so many things that affect the lymph system now, even stress levels. It's impossible to not be stressed now. And I always tell people, don't beat yourself up if you're stressed or if you're having a hard time managing your stress. Just go get some lymph drainage and do meditation and deep breathing, and then your body will do better.
Right. It helps them to fight whatever else is going on in the body.
Yeah. Lymph drainage helps to the body be more resilient to modern life, really.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This should be on everybody's radar to do, like you said, monthly. It's maintenance, right? So it's like you take your car in, right, for its oil change and, inspection, all those things, but it's maintenance, because if you don't maintain it, it's going to leave you stranded.
Yeah, and you can do lymph drainage at home too. Of course, when you come to see a lymph therapist, we can do techniques that are hard to do yourself, but there are some you can do. There's a book called The Lymphatic Message, I think. Okay. I'm not sure of it. I'll send you the link. But perfect. It's a wonderful book with sequences. She has a breast sequence in there, and just self massage, lymph drainage. I don't want to say massage. It's not a massage.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that lymph drainage is hard, and we're pushing a lot of fluid out, and but it's very light. All it takes to move the lymph is about 30 millimeters of pressure, which is like a light stroke. And we're moving the skin because most of it is located under the skin. So there's a lot of myths out there, and lymph is becoming more popular too. So I'm seeing more and more, especially last year, so many information that is not quite accurate. So it is not a massage, because the massage focuses on the muscles. We're not focusing on the muscles at all. We're focusing right on top of the muscle. So when you see lymph drainage being advertised as a massage, just be careful with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that, because I think I mentioned to you earlier too, that I always share with my clientele that, again, it's not massage, because like you said, you're working on the muscles, but you need to find and seek out a qualified, trained professional in lymphatic drainage. A massage therapist, and this means this is no, angst against massage
absolutely
therapy,
not.
I go every 6 weeks, but it's different.
I go monthly.
Right? It's different. It just is. So it's really important to seek out a lymphatic drainage specialist that specializes in this, not somebody who had massage therapy training and, an hour of lymphatic coverage. That's not the same thing. So I really appreciate you sharing that, Genevieve, because that's very
So when I took my training, I was actually the only esthetician. And I just want to say, I don't practice aesthetics anymore. I abandoned that completely. But back then, I was the only esthetician in there in a room full of massage therapists. So I felt major imposter syndrome. I was like, what am I doing here? Should I be here? Like, am I even qualified? And the teacher was also a massage therapist, and he said, Genevieve, don't worry about that, because first of all, massage therapists sometimes, and he struggled with that too. He shared that with me. Going from deep tissue to lymph drainage during the day can be hard because you have to change the pressure so much. And he said that most massage therapists, when they start offering lymph drainage, they end up doing just that. So He said, you have that for going for you already. And
yeah, that's right.
He also said to the massage therapist in the room, it's very important, the difference, because when you do a massage and you get congested, it's actually your lymph that wasn't moving because of the pressure of the massage. But don't worry, within a few hours, it's back to normal. But it was just to show the difference between the two, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean massage is bad at all. Massage is vital. It's just
we need it.
It's just different. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't live without my massage therapist. So I told her if she ever moved, I don't know what I would do. So the other question that I remembered that I wanted to ask you, if we could talk about, in which I loved, is that for the most part, cancer patients, when they're seeking, holistic treatments, it's very difficult for them to find people that are qualified to do that. So my question to you, and I think I already know the answer, but so talk to me about, can you accept people who are going through cancer treatments or who have had cancer before as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With a doctor, if they're undergoing treatment, just a doctor's note that clears them. And actually, most doctors do recommend during treatment, depending on your situation. So yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Now, and then if following cancer treatment as well, it's just as important. And I feel that, if the clientele that I sometimes will see, they're frustrated because when they call to make appointments, that's one of the questions on the questionnaire. And then as soon as they say yes, it's, people aren't comfortable. And I get it, that if they don't have the proper training, you don't want somebody working on you that, has had some lymph nodes removed, et cetera, because your lymph system is probably working differently, et cetera. So I just thank you for the work that you've done that allows cancer patients to be able to access this very important.
Yes. And I do want to add, so with VADR, there is different levels. So I am level 1. And if someone is suffering from lymphedema, I usually will send them to someone that has level 2, 3, or 4 that are also massage therapists. So that's an also important difference. So if they do not have lymphedema, of course, I can absolutely help them. But for lymphedema specifically, it requires additional training on top of that too. So
interesting. But there are people around that you can refer them to.
Oh yeah, in Moncton here, Wings of Wellness, and she's also trained in decongestive therapy, which is an additional training. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's wonderful. We're so blessed and lucky that we've got so many wonderful practitioners that,
Oh yeah. It takes a village. I always say it takes a village.
It sure does, sweetheart. It sure does. And I love that you say that because, if a person thinks that they have all the answers to help one person, you're missing the boat, because it does take a village to help each other through life and through health and wellness. So my hat's off to you. So how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, yes. So I have online booking at lymphinitiatives.com/booking. And I have a lot of information on my website as well, but they can also reach out through the contact form there too, if they don't like, not everybody likes online booking. So yeah,
absolutely.
And the main service is called lymph drainage therapy.
Okay, perfect. And I will say, just to the listeners, your website is so informational, like job well. Very, very informative. I know I've sent it to some of my clients as well too. And that's the same feedback that they've given me, is that there was a lot of great information on that on the website. So for listeners, please go out and take a look. It's called the lymphinitiative.com.
And there's a free quiz too. It's actually quite a long quiz, but I like to be thorough, and it gives people a lot of tools to get started on lymphatic health. It's called a lymph congestion quiz.
Okay.
And actually, it reminds me, I want to talk about the drainage pathways.
Okay,
So
good.
lymph is actually not just the lymph. And that's why I created that quiz, because there are 11 drainage pathways in total, which are routes that the body will take to eliminate once the lymph is done processing everything and the liver and all that. And the lymph is only one of them. So in that quiz, you will get an idea of where your lymph is congested in one of those pathways. So, there's I'm going to try to remember them all here. There's the liver, the kidneys, the large intestine, the skin, and of course, the lymph is one of them. The lungs, the lymphatic, which is the brain. And, the lymph is still so new in modern medicine. Like the lymphatic system was only, I'm going to say with quotes, discovered in 2012.
Oh my goodness.
The fascia was only discovered like a couple years ago in 2021, discovered, was only mapped like 2 or 3 years ago. It's still very new. And it's because the lymph, like when you dissect a body, even if you look in the 1700s or 1600s, when they were dissecting bodies, you don't see the lymphatic system. It's transparent. It just flows everywhere to help all the other parts of our body. So I'm glad it's getting the attention, but it is still very new. But if you look at traditional medicine, like traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, it's all based on the lymph system. Like the meridians, if you put it side to side with the lymphatic system, it's all the same routes.
It's all the same routes. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And that's why I always say it's not just the lymph, it kind of encompasses 10 other routes that the lymph uses to actually eliminate. Right. So if toxic, and I like to use the word toxicants because toxins is like snake venom. Right. It kills you. Toxicant, it kills you a little bit slower.
Wow.
it requires accumulation. So I find toxin is like a very aggressive word. So I try to use the word toxicants. And if toxicants can't be eliminated through the kidney or the liver or through the large intestine, it will end up on the skin. And I'm assuming as well in breast tissue, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
I know about the skin, but I'm going to definitely dig more into breast tissue, what it does for the lymph system. But yeah, and so in that quiz, they will be able to determine which drainage pathway is the most congested.
Okay. Interesting. Wow. I just learned a ton in that like quick minute and a half overview. That's amazing. And it's, you hit on a topic that it's so important when you said, like, used example, like snake venom, right? Snake venom will kill you, but it'll kill you quick. Yeah. But then toxicant is what you said, right? Like toxicant, but it kills you slowly over time. And it goes back to a, recent post that I seen. I think it was Dr. Berg had posted and he said, the heart attack at 50 started at 30, right? Or the, cancer started at, a much earlier age. But again, it just made me stop and think, right? It's the accumulation of those toxins slowly over time. It slowly kills you. Interesting.
And toxicants are mostly man-made substances, and a lot of them are fat soluble, which is very interesting in the detoxification process because the lymph transports fats, right? Yeah. So a lot of those fat soluble substances that cannot be converted by the bile will be eliminated by the lymph system. So,
okay. So for our listeners, because I know people have a hard time with what are some examples of fat soluble things?
Oh yes. So pesticides, herbicides, PFAs like Teflon, things like that. The body does not know how to break them down. Fortunately, we have a system that will help eliminate them from the body. So PFAs, there's a study recently that came out that sweating actually eliminates a lot of PFAs, like the non-stick pans and things like that, anything non-stick, because Teflon was originally invented. I'm rambling a little bit here, but it was a coating for the war tanks.
Yes.
Oh, you know about that?
I watched the documentary.
Oh, yes.
And you can't unsee
I
once you
know.
see that. And I still don't understand. If people could just watch the documentary, just search it, like the Teflon documentary, because to your point, they used it on tanks.
That's how
And such a surplus of it, they didn't know how to get rid of it. So all of a sudden,
let's use it on pans. But one thing that I always like to remind my clients is being angry about that kind of stuff is worse than the Teflon itself.
Right. Good point. Thank you.
So
Very
it's
helpful.
more about what can we do ourselves? What is within our control, throw out those pans and make sure your body's draining. So,
right. Very important to make sure that the body is draining, right? And if you are using the pans, you're going to continue using the pans, make sure you're booking with Genevieve monthly, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. And one thing at a time. Don't throw out all your pans. Maybe buy a new pan and then, you can get rid of the other ones later. But yeah.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love what you just said, right? That the anger is much worse for you, or the stress is much worse for you than the pan itself. And you're so right. People can get so upset, and myself included, on things that
normal.
you see
that
are happening in the
human
world.
emotion. Yeah.
Yep. And, those emotions, though, they can certainly wreak havoc on you as well if you don't get them in check. So thank you for saying that. That's awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Anything else you would like to add?
So during treatments, there's different areas we can do. I usually start on the neck because the body, all the lymph is returned to the neck. So if the neck is congested, it will be hard. It trickles down, right? It's when you're trying to brush your hair, you have a lot of tangles in your hair. If you start from the top, when it gets to the bottom, it's going to be extremely tangled. So if you start from the bottom and then you work your way up, it'll be easier. So it's kind of the same on the body. Start on the neck. We can do breast. I do a lot of breast drainage because not a lot of practitioners will touch that area. We can do upper back, lower back, legs, arms, and face as well. So,
okay. Yeah. So, and thank you for saying that. So, because, and thank you, because this will clear up a misnomer of mine, because I thought that to have like a lymphatic drainage session, that the whole body had to be done, because if there was congestion in one area, that it would impact. So thank you for clarifying that for me.
So, my session's about 45 minutes because I find from experience, I mean, I've been doing lymph drainage for 5 years now. After 45 minutes, there's not a lot that happens, not a lot more movement. So I keep them 45 minutes. Yeah, we'll start on the neck. And from there, I'll go depending on your concerns or where you feel the most congestion. But a lot can happen with just neck drainage, actually.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to next week, because on the 29th, I'm coming in for mine, and I'm really looking forward to it. And, I'll certainly post my results as well too, and how, if we uncover anything or how I'm feeling afterwards, I'll certainly share that with the audience as well too, because I think it's really important. And I like using myself as a guinea pig as well too. So
well, actually I like that you say that, results, because with the lymph as well, it's better to not put pressure on any results at all.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you might be disappointed because the results might build up. I always tell people, don't expect anything before the third or fourth session.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Okay. And it's better to come in and being like, this is something good I'm doing for my body. Thank you, body. Just take this in and run with it and do whatever you need to do.
Fantastic.
And instead of being like, how long will it take to see results? Or I want to see this result or that result. From experience, focusing on results, you will always be disappointed. Always. You will never be satisfied.
Isn't that the truth in life too?
Yes. Yeah. And the lymph system works in wonderful ways, and it's different for everybody. Fantastic. Like, I'll share my experience. My first lymph drainage, I don't always share it because I was extremely sick the next day.
Okay.
I couldn't stand. I threw up 3 times, super queasy. I didn't know what was happening to me. The teacher, it was during the training. The teacher was so worried. And he even said, is there any chance you're pregnant? Like, this is not normal. I'm like, no, there's absolutely no chance. And it got me a little bit nervous to offer lymph drainage, but he reassured me that he's never seen it in his whole career. But I'll tell you why I reacted so violently. I wasn't active, and my level of toxicant was extremely high because at the time I didn't know I had sick building syndrome from black mold. And that's extremely hard to get diagnosed and to get treatment. So, and then emotional trauma as well will release a lot. So I had a lot of stuff to deal with, and that's why I reacted so violently. I've never seen anyone react like that yet either. So yeah.
But thank God that you found that though too, Genevieve, for yourself, right? Because I mean, clearly
it finally gave me answers.
And it was moving a lot of toxins as well too, right?
It was. Oh yeah, I was feeling 100% the next day. And when you're not feeling well, you try to push through.
Yeah.
And when something helps you a little, then you realize, oh, that's how I used to feel. And it kind of gave me the motivation to change things and really start researching deeper into the lymph system and how to help the lymph system. And that's how I became a naturopath.
I love you. Isn't that incredible how our journeys sometimes will get started, right? And then where we end up. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Thank you for following. I really want to make sure that I say this because I mean it. When I talk to practitioners like yourself and you hear the journey that people have gone through, I always take a step back, and I'm so appreciative that you followed your journey, even though it was hard, that you followed your journey because you followed yours and you didn't run away from it. You're allowing other people to follow their journey as well too. And sometimes, we think that, what we do may or may not be that important, but it is so important, Genevieve, what you're doing. And so on the days that, because we're all business, entrepreneurs as well too. And it's hard, right? It's hard. You're running the business, you're trying to take care of people, you're empathetic and you're an empath. And so therefore you can, hold a lot of stuff. And, days go by sometimes that you're just working and you forget the light that you do bring. And again, if you hadn't followed your journey, the amount of people I'm sure that you've already helped, it wouldn't have been possible. So thank you for showing up and saying yes to your journey as well.
Yeah. And talking about the journey, like imagine I was an esthetician of 12 years. That was my whole identity.
Yeah.
And then I take this little training for fun because I'm curious about it. But then I just can't go back. And it took me probably 5 years to finally be like, okay, I'm doing this full time. And I wish I did it sooner.
I love you.
I had to go through that.
Yeah, you did in order to get to where you are today. So yeah, fantastic. Well, I really appreciate having the opportunity to have met you. I'm looking forward to continue working with you, and I'm looking forward to my appointment next week as well too. And I'll definitely, share with people openly any experience that I may or may not have. I'm looking forward to filling out my intake form for my appointment next week and seeing what you think about a couple of areas of opportunity that I've had for quite some time. So.
Yeah, and do the quiz too on the website. That'll help me.
I plan to. Yeah, I plan to do that as well too. That's going to be interesting. So I encourage everybody that's listening, go to her website, the Lymph Initiative, and just take the test and see what you come up with. Because I'm going to do
it's right on the homepage. The first thing you're going to see, lymph congestion quiz.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, my dear. And anybody that's listening, if you go see Genevieve, please feel free to drop me a line as well too, right? I mean, sharing is powerful for people. And if we don't share what other, practitioners are available, you never know that person that you may be able to help. So, and especially where, Genevieve herself and has other practitioners as well too that can work with people that are going through cancer treatments. So very important. So please feel free to reach out, drop Genevieve a line because it's always very important to get feedback. So thank you again, Genevieve, and I look forward to working more with you, dear.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for having me.